What's going on, Saints fans? We have a very exclusive and very informative interview with Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints here on today's video. But just wanted to be transparent at the beginning of this video. We filmed it on Radio Row here at Super Bowl 59. We did have some audio issues and some technical difficulties, but still a lot of good insight, a lot of good information. So we wanted to share it with y'all. I tried my best to workshop it. I tried my best to salvage it. This is what we got, so I hope y'all enjoy. And just know we're still going to give you guys great coverage. So y'all stay golden and enjoy today's interview. Saints fans, welcome into an exclusive and very special edition of Saints Now by Chat Sports. As always, I'm your host, Trizzy Trace Ross. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am joined on Radio Row from New Orleans with none other than Ross Jackson of Locked On Sports, one of the best in the biz.
Oh,
Ross,
thanks.
First of all, thank you so much for tuning in, or joining the show, not tuning in.
I tune in too. I tune in too. Everybody
tune
tune in. Everybody tune in.
Yeah,
man. No, I'm happy to be here, dude. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So just kind of wanted to start things off. We're in the great city of New Orleans. The Eagles, obviously, big game coming up here. What's kind of your thoughts on the head coaching search? Obvious name, Kellen Moore. What are your thoughts just going into this process?
Yeah, at this point, everything that we expect has been what we've expected over the course of the past couple of weeks, which is that Kellen Moore is likely to become the New Orleans Saints' next head coach. Obviously, they can't make that decision or discernment right now until after the Super Bowl is all wrapped up. They'll have their third meeting. They did the virtual one. They flew out to Philly to go and see him. They got flown out, and then now they're going to be visiting with him here in New Orleans. I'm going to just be real. I can't see a world in which that's like a, so what do you think? You know what I mean? Like that is definitely a, hey, let's get the numbers figured out. Let's get the figures done kind of expectation that I have for that meeting. So it feels like it's going to be Kellen Moore. Obviously, anything can happen. There can be, shakeups and all that. But I think this is pretty much I don't want to say has done a deal, but this is kind of as far along as it can get right now and should be able to continue after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big reasons, I'm not sure a lot of people sitting at home understand why they're taking so long and why there's so much silence around it. Feels like the Saints are just trying to make sure that they're covering all their bases, following the book and making sure they go about this correctly. Because if you remember when Jonathan Gannon left the Eagles last time they were in the Super Bowl, Cardinals, they had to deal with a little bit of a punishment, so it would make sense for the Saints to avoid that.
and especially because it's so funny. There's so many overlaps with that situation, right? It's Philadelphia Eagles coordinator that's practicing at the facility of the team that's hiring them, that's also the host city of the Super Bowl. Like, it's all the exact same. So the Saints, Mickey Loomis, general manager, they're saying, buy the book, buy the numbers, paint by numbers. I'm not going outside the lines. We're not messing with this. They don't want to mess this up. Just because, look, they've got, what was that? It was a pick swap that ended up happening.
Something like that,
It wasn't too big, but the Saints have been able to bring together 9 draft picks. You've been covering this team long enough. How many times have they actually used 9 draft picks, right? Yeah, very, very rare.
One of those.
So with that being the case, a lot of it is trying to preserve what it is that they have while also getting what it is that they want in Kellen.
Absolutely. And kind of what are your thoughts on the process and the speed of the process after the Super Bowl said and done? We wake up Monday morning, some fan base is happy, some fan base is upset. How quickly should we expect to see the Saints possibly make this happen?
Fast.
That's what I thought.
So you look back at the Arizona Cardinals, right? Arizona Cardinals hosted the Super Bowl that the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs played in. And then that game was on Sunday. They hired Jonathan Gannon on Monday. Jonathan Gannon did his introductory press conference on Tuesday. And then he was at the parade later on that week, right? No, he wasn't at the parade, actually. But he would have been available to go to the parade later on that week. And so with that, I think you can expect a similar situation with Kellen Moore, especially if the Eagles do win. You want to make sure he gets back to Philly in time for the parade and all this stuff. So get all that stuff out of the way. Let him go and enjoy the victory if there is one, and then have him come back to New Orleans and then kind of get rolling. Otherwise, that's it. He just stays here.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just stays here,
Absolutely. And so, with Kellen Moore, obviously, he is I would say from my standpoint, probably my favorite candidate here. I love the idea of Darren Rizzy. Don't get me wrong. I think he is a smart head coach, and I'm not sure if you've read the blog. He put out an article a handful of years ago discussing why special teams coordinators make great head coaches, and he's made a lot of really valid points within that. And so, what kind of impact and what kind of person are you losing with Darren Rizzy if he ends up taking the Denver job, which feels like that's probably where he'd be headed.
Yeah. Look, I think you look at the interim landscape of the last 20 years, did a research project. I wrote a story. Right? A research project, who am I? But I wrote a story not too long ago over at LouisianaSports.net about like the last 20 years of interim coaches that didn't get the full-time job. What'd they do? Left.
Yep.
All of them left. And that's a binary thing, right? Or it's a twofold thing. It's the interim head coach didn't get the job that they wanted, so they went. Makes sense. And also, does the head coach really want the guy that was around calling shots at the end of last season to be around while they're trying to call the shots this season? Probably not, right? It's not a great setup.
Yeah.
And so for a guy like Darren Rizzy, who is going to quickly and easily be like the top special teams coordinator candidate on the market, he'll be the favorite for the Denver Broncos job, but he'll have other offers, and there will be other positions that either will be open or will open up for him to become, once again, the highest paid special teams coordinator in the NFL. So what are you losing if he goes away? Well, you lose fire, you lose tenacity, you lose ferocity, you lose connection to an entire roster. And that's why special teams coaches make good head coaches. That's why they make fantastic interim head coaches in particular. Look at Rich Bisaccia.
Antonio Pierce
Oakland
with the Raiders as well,
Right. So these guys that are these special teams coordinators that turn into interim coaches or turn into head coaches, they've got their hands and their thumbprints and their fingerprints on every single player on the roster for the most part. Especially when you're a guy like Darren Rizzy, who wasn't just a special teams coordinator, he was assistant head coach. So special teams coordinator might not be in the quarterback room, but the assistant head coach will be. And so there's like all those things. And so I think that's what you lose. I've talked to several players and several assistant coaches around the organization, and the bottom line when it comes to Darren Rizzy is that everyone wants to work with him. There's no detractors from that. Every player loves him, and every coach that I've talked to, assistant coach that I've talked to, has said something along the lines of, he just does things the right way. So that's what you lose.
Yeah, and one of like the most, I think, minuscule changes that made such a massive impact when Darren Rizzy come in. You said he did things correct, and the players loved like playing with it or playing for him. One of the craziest things, I'm like, why was this never done beforehand when he switched the order of the locker room? I remember you talking about that to a great extent. Like, that's just such a – I get at the time why they did that, but removed now a handful of years, like that's such an easy fix that, I mean, it seemed like it made a good impact because that happens and they start winning games again and they break the losing streak. So, you know, it's interesting to see how that will pan out with Darren Rizzy, with Kellen Moore, with all of that. But, you know, hot topic is the quarterback situation. Now, obviously, you got Derek Carr under contract. There's the cut discussion. There's the trade discussion. There's all of those rumors that you get in this kind of situation. But, you know, what do you think is the outlook for not Derek Carr, but Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler? Because I find it hard to believe they're going to run it back with the exact same quarterback room. So somewhere in that room there will be change, and you know, where do you think that could be and what it'll look like?
Yeah, it could be at the top. It could be at the bottom. I mean, it could be anywhere.
It could be in the middle too.
It could be in the middle. It could be all of them.
Yeah,
we don't know. Like it's such an interesting thing because when you bring in an offensive head coach, well, let me say it this way. Actually, when you bring in a head coach, the next thing that you want to make sure that you do is you give that head coach their quarterback. And we've seen the New Orleans Saints do this, right? They hired Sean Payton. Sean Payton wanted Drew Brees. They went and got him Drew Brees.
Yep.
They hired Dennis Allen, the defensive head coach. He wanted Derek Carr. They went and got his offense, Derek Carr. He didn't even call the plays on the offensive side. And they were like, yeah, we'll go get you your guy.
Exactly.
That's fine. And so I think that like you're going to see them either in 2025 or 2026 do the same thing for Kellen Moore. You could be somebody that loves Derek Carr. You could be somebody that doesn't like Derek Carr. Doesn't matter. You got to really look at what it is that Kellen Moore wants. And maybe he wants Derek Carr, maybe he doesn't. And that's going to be kind of the biggest deciding factor. And then I imagine that if Derek Carr's gone, a guy that's in a similar vein but with more athleticism, Jake Haener, makes sense that he probably doesn't get a second contract.
Sure.
Right? Because it's kind of the same thing. The big outlier is Spencer Rattler, who is so different than both Derek Carr and Jake Haener. So it could be that no Derek Carr, and then eventually no Jake Haener. It could be Derek Carr, Jake Haener, no Spencer Rattler. It's such an interesting kind of mold in terms of what it can all be. So it's really going to come down to, and I think the most important thing, the team making the decision that the head coach wants to make.
Sure.
That's got to be the thing at the forefront here. So we'll see exactly which way it goes, but that's probably going to be – it's going to be a hot topic for a little while.
Absolutely. Well, and I kind of piggybacking off of one of the things you said, you're saying that there's – change could come anywhere, and what it comes down to is who the quarterback or the head coach wants as their quarterback. So no mystery. The cap space, not great situation here. But that doesn't stop them from spending in the past. I mean, we go back to the offseason they signed Derek Carr. Yeah. You were very over the cap, and you managed to get under the cap and sign him and make things work. So, do you think that the management and the office, like, are they willing to go and sign and make a splashy addition in free agency, or do you think that they're going to possibly target the draft, or because I think that there's pros and cons to both sides of it. So I just kind of what are your thoughts if you're doing this? Would you go draft or would you go free agency?
Yeah. So if Kellen Moore comes to me as a general manager and says, "Yes, I'll take the job. Thank you for the money. I would like a different quarterback in 2025."
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm probably looking at what the free agency landscape looks like. I want to see where Justin Fields goes.
Absolutely.
That's really the thing. Because let's say Russell Wilson, as Pete Carroll, begins to create the Seattle Seahawks Southish, right? Sin City Seahawks, I like to call them right now. If he ends up bringing over, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's really good. That's really good.
so you get the Sin City Seahawks, and then you potentially get Russell Wilson heading back over there to join up with Pete Carroll and things like that. And so if that happens, then the Steelers are probably keeping Justin Fields. They're in no position to draft a quarterback. There's the free agency class of quarterbacks isn't great.
Yeah.
And everything. And then so then the next question becomes, do you want to overpay for a Sam Darnold based on what he did in 2024 without a real guarantee that he could do it again in 2025 or so on? Or do you want to roll the dice on a Trey Lance maybe? Like I don't know. Like it's not that strong a free agency class. So I need to see what happens at the very top of it.
Sure.
And I don't have to hold my breath for very long. So, okay, if that doesn't work out, then I either have the option to go to Spencer Rattler or draft a quarterback. And maybe there's some quarterback. One of the guys that I like a lot is Kellen Moore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Led the nation in passing, prototypical passer, prototypical quarterback, all those other things. And nice arm, kind of make all the throws. Just needs to make the leap. Right?
Sure.
And so if you're able to get him a guy like that, then maybe that works. Otherwise, you look ahead to 2026. And so if Kellen Moore instead says, hey, I want a new quarterback, but I'm cool with riding with Derek Carr for 2025, fantastic. Ride with Derek Carr for 2025, move on to 2026, save yourself some salary cap space-ish in that way, and then, or at least get in a more manageable position, salary cap-wise, and then I'm going to the draft in 2026. The 2026 quarterback class is going to be really, really good.
Absolutely.
Because of how many people abandon the 2025 draft class, and they can't abandon the 2026.
Sure.
So I'm going in there and I'm targeting a guy.
Yeah, and in a name this year that I've seen a lot on social media, and I've seen in my own YouTube comments section, Jackson Dart. That's a name that's very, very popular because, unless some miracle happens, I don't know if he's going to be a first-round guy. Maybe. Who knows? Quarterback, thin class, maybe. But I could see the Saints possibly using one of those later picks, maybe in the fourth round, maybe. I don't have a fifth-round pick, but I could see them potentially, if he's available, doing what they did with Spencer Rattler. He's like, it's on the board. Might as well just grab him, see what we got. Do you think Jackson Dart could be a good fit with Kellen Moore, being that there's some mobility, being that, the arm strength is okay, it's there, but definitely, room to grow for him. Do you think that that'd be a good fit?
I think it could be. He's got tools that are really good, everything like that can be really exciting. I'm just a little bit over the quarterback conversation of, doesn't have an NFL arm, doesn't have NFL size, but
he's got aura.
Right. right. And so that's kind of the thing for me. You know what I mean? Spencer Rattler is somebody that has aura, but also doesn't necessarily have NFL size, right? He's not 6'3", 6'4",
sure.
whatever. But he's got an NFL arm.
Sure.
You can get the ball wherever on the field. And so you kind of say, okay, cool, 2 of the 3. I'll take that. You know what I mean? But if you're looking at a guy and you're having to say but or make the excuse or whatever, I'm not so sold.
Sure.
And so we'll see what happens. I think the evaluation around Jackson Dart has been too inconsistent so far. Listen, to every big media person, they're telling you he's going to go in the first, midway through the first round. But then you read some of the comments that scouts are making anonymously about him, and they're saying I got a day 3 draft.
Sure.
And so does some coach fall in love with him? Right? Does he become a coach pick as opposed to a scout pick? Does some general manager fall in love with him because it's a general manager pick instead of a scout pick? Or does the team panic and say, we need a quarterback, take QB3 in the first round? That's how he becomes a first-round guy. But if it goes by the evaluation, I'm not so sure he's there yet. But the combine and his workouts and his pro day, if he does a pro day, and his top 30 visits and all that stuff, like that could change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I mean, we've done a lot of good conversation about the head coach, the quarterback, but I mean, it's the biggest event in all of sports in the greatest city in all of the world, dare I say. So just, I want to just talk to you about New Orleans and about what this event means to the city. So, you know, what does it mean to be a host city, especially to New Orleans, that is a city that faces adversity, a city that has fought out of adversity, has dug themselves out of holes multiple times. Like, this feels like such a great place for either history for the Chiefs or history for the Eagles to be made. So just what does it mean for New Orleans to host a big event like the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's massive, man. Like, we love hosting the Super Bowl. In my opinion, New Orleans should host every event ever.
I agreed.
Like, send the Olympics here. We don't have space for it.
But we'll figure it out, yeah.
Stuff on top of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, this is the best city for something like this, and it's a great host city for the Super Bowl. Everything's kind of walkable.
Mm-hmm.
You have great food, you have great destinations, you have great everything, great attractions here in the city, everything. And I think above all else, like, we are in New Orleans a culture of host.
Sure.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
Like, come to the house and grab a pie. Come to the house and grab a bowl. Come to the house and grab a plate. Like, this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so hosting a big event like this, whether it's, you know, the NCAA tournament, whether it's the Sugar Bowl, whatever it might be, or in this case the Super Bowl, it's kind of what our personality is to do, right? We want to know how you're doing. We want to know how you're mounting them. We want to make sure you're doing right. We want to make sure you've eaten enough, and we want to make sure that you get home safe.
Absolutely.
Like, this is what we do.
Absolutely.
So that to me, I think is the biggest thing. And obviously, like, this event brings a lot back to New Orleans as well. We're less than 35 days removed from a terrorist attack in this city, and you would never know it by the attitudes of the people.
Exactly.
We walked around with mentally wet socks for a couple of weeks. Like, there's no doubt about that and everything. And, like, everything carried an undertone of, like, are you and everybody you know okay?
Absolutely.
But as we, like, built our way through that and everything like that, we got back into what it is that New Orleans is. And one of the things that I've talked about a lot is that this is a city that loves hard, that fights hard and loves harder. Mm-hmm. This is what we do. And so I absolutely love being able to be a part of this, first of all, on a selfish level, but then also for the city to be able to enjoy this and show what it is that New Orleans is.
Yeah, I mean, just outward looking in, I'm from Dallas. I grew up in the DFW Metroplex, went to school at Arkansas. The only ties I have to Louisiana, my dad's side of the family, he's passed away when I was in college, but he's from Slidell. So I'm like, that's my one little route to Louisiana. And one thing I love about this state and just this people and the place is, to your point exactly, 35 days ago, crazy, unimaginable, horrible event happens, but then you walk around and it's from a bartender on Bourbon Street to a parking attendant to some of the guys out here just cleaning up trash, the nicest, most genuine, most kind-hearted people I've ever met. And I had a quick second to Mario Davis was walking in. One of his agents turned around and said, "Hey, how do we get to Radio Row?" Showed him where to go, and one of the workers out here came up and was like, "Was that Damar?" And I said, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh my gosh." I mean, it's just so cool to see, like, what this team means to the city and what the city means to the team as well. Like, I think that's like one of the unique parts about the Saints and being in New Orleans compared to across the league.
I think the connection between the New Orleans Saints in particular and the city of New Orleans is one of the best community-to-team relationships in all of sports. In all of sports. Like, listen, Saints fans will let it be known when they're not happy about this team.
Sure.
It's not because they're unhappy with the team. It's because they want to be happy with the team. They want to be excited. They want to see their team win. And just the connection through, like, I'm a Katrina survivor and everything. Like, I was here for it. I lived through all of it and everything. And so to go through all that, one of the things that we did every Sunday was ride around and find a way to watch the Saints game. Like, even, like, after that and everything. And, like, with the rebuild and the rebirth of the New Orleans Saints franchise, the rebuild and the rebirth of New Orleans happened at the same time. And so the connective tissue between the community and the team is just unlike any other you're going to find.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, just kind of a follow-up with that, with being the city that just always fights back, the city that always makes, doesn't let the backs get against the wall. They're always pushing back. What do the Saints need to do to push back this offseason? What are, like, if you could pick three things, I know it's hard to pick, but, like, if you could pick the top three things the Saints need to get right this offseason, what would those be in your opinion?
Yeah, win.
Yeah, yes.
And that's not me trying to be, like, nasty towards the team or anything, but, like, that's the thing, right? Like, that's the thing. This thing. Every time that we push back as a city, we win as a city, right? So that's what we want. That's what I think, like, fans organization, whatever, like that's what everybody wants for this team is to win games. So I think that that's number one. I think shoot for the stars is another big one. I've been kind of talking about that when it comes to Kellen Moore. Like if I'm Kellen Moore and I'm taking this job in New Orleans, and I understand the connection between this franchise and this organization, I understand what it means for this community to be a part of this community. I'm looking at who are the biggest names that I can get to follow me. I don't care if Jeff Stoutland is one of the best offensive line coaches ever and he's been with Philly for 11 years. Pick up the phone and call him.
Yeah.
Tell him I'm making you an offensive coordinator to come and coach my offensive line. You know what I mean? And like do whatever, like shoot for the stars, I think is another big one. And then connect with the community, right? That's the other big thing. Like you see DeMario's, you see the way that he's entrenched in the community. You see the way that Cam Jordan is entrenched in the community. Anybody that's coming into this franchise should understand that they're not just becoming a part of the New Orleans Saints, they're becoming a part of New Orleans, they're becoming a part of the Gulf South. And so you have to find a way to get your fingerprints involved in that. And it's the old adage, right? You love New Orleans will love you back. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll just wrap up. Fun question.
Yeah.
What is your go-to po' boy order?
Oh, go-to po' boy order? It's a fun question, but it's not going to be a fun answer.
No.
Right. I'm a fried shrimp po' boy, dressed no mayonnaise, extra hot sauce.
Okay, see, I'm the same way, but I like mayonnaise on mine.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. I just like a little bit of the mayonnaise on mine. Not a ton, just light coating on there. But Ross, thank you so much, man, for joining the show. I absolutely was so much fun. I hope everyone at home enjoyed it as well. And where can they find you if they want to support you guys? For people who don't, I don't know why they aren't supporting you, but for people who haven't followed you, don't know where they can get some more information, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at my house. No, for real. You can find the Locked On Saints podcast free and available wherever you get podcasts. Just search Locked On Saints. You can find all the written work over at LouisianaSports.net. You can find all of it all in one place on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA, N-O-L.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you again, Ross, for joining. Guys, be sure to support Ross, subscribe to his channels, check out his blogs, and thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all stay golden. We will see you next time.